Mr. Gary Burnett is here today to promote the upcoming virtual Constitution Week program to be presented by the Daughters of the American Revolution, Gila Valley Chapter. Due to pandemic restrictions on public gatherings, this will be seen live through the Safford Library's Facebook page on September 17th from 6 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. Gary, the community affectionately calls you George Washington and Mr. Constitution. With this passion you have for the founding of our country, tell our viewing audience in what ways you have shared this passion over the years.
Well, it's 15 years ago that I figured out that all the stories about our country that I never knew before. And so I've talked to 2,000 people and taught them about our Constitution, dressed in my George Washington outfit, and been in 425 parades, taught 455 Boy Scouts citizenship in the nation, and I'm the author of 3 books about our country.
Right. And I understand your keen interest in George Washington stems from a blood relation in your family line. How are you related to him?
Well, I'm not directly related blood, but my grandmother has many people that are called George Washington Richardson. And I have a great-great-grandfather named George Washington Burnett. So he has many attachments to our family.
That's interesting. So what are some of the attributes and contributions of George Washington that caused you to share his life with others?
Well, I've got many books printed 150 years ago, and I started reading this one. This book here was written by his adopted son, printed in 1860. And when I found out all the stories about him that I never knew, it got me excited. For instance, in his personal journals, he says that 67 times Providence saved his life. He was a militia. He was in the French and Indian War. He had bullet holes in his coats and his hat at 50 yards or less than the muskets. He was never wounded in any battle that he was in. And it was Washington's virtue and unselfish service was noted worldwide because of this contribution to our country. He is rightly called the father of our nation.
With the Constitution being one of George Washington's passions for our young country, what is special about the date of September 17th?
Well, that's the day that the Constitution was accepted, and 39 delegates actually accepted it on September 17th, 1787, 233 years ago. It is the oldest written constitution in the world that is still in effect, and it is the first one in history that the national government was created to use the talents of the common individuals and make the race and lineage of America equal and sovereign.
Presently, we're dealing with a pandemic as well as a year of local, state, and national elections. In another pandemic, the Spanish flu of 1918 during the World War I, the Americans' Creed was written. In the beginning of that creed it states, "I believe in the United States of America as a government of the people, by the people, for the people." And it ends by saying, "I therefore believe it is my duty to my country to love it, to support its Constitution, to obey its laws, to respect its flag, and defend it against all enemies." Why and how did that creed come about?
Well, it came about because of the World War I, and they killed a lot of people. My dad was infected with that flu and almost died, but he recovered from it. But it was Tyler Page. There was a National Constitutional American Creed, and Tyler Page was the one that won that. And he actually used some of the words of our preamble, our Constitution, and Lincoln's Gettysburg Address.
And in closing, what do we as citizens need to do?
Well, the founders of this country made many sacrifices for us. They were not perfect. But over the years, we have forgotten what they have sacrificed for us. We make the mistake today of our judgment, of our understanding, not realizing the stressful situation that happened in their day. The challenge that we have today is to become more familiar with our Constitution and what it really means. What we really need today is a unified action to unite us and to have the spirit of the founding of America reborn in our hearts, that they were dedicated believers in the laws of God and nature's God, because it is keeping those principles that we become blessed and united to those that really need our help and our mentoring.
As you can tell, Gary is passionate about our country. He is most willing to make presentations to any group that would like to hear stories that they have most likely never heard before. Call the library. We'll get you in touch with him, in touch with Mr. Constitution. And Mr. Constitution, thank you so much for being here today and for the many years you've shared your passion for the founding of this country in an effort to remind others to love this country and to support its Constitution.
Well, thank you, Leslie. It's my patriotic pleasure to tell these forgotten stories. And as we understand them, it will unite our country. And I know this is not on the script. I just want to say what Washington said near his inauguration. There is no truth more thoroughly established than that there exists in the economy and the course of nature a union between virtue and happiness. We ought to be no less persuaded that the smiles of heaven can never be expected on the nation that disregards the eternal rules of order and right, with heaven itself was ordained it. Thank you very much.
Okay, to our viewers, on September 17th, Constitution Day at 6 p.m., join us here on the library's Facebook page for the DAR Virtual Constitution Week program. Watch for other promotionals coming up about this special event. After the event, all of these promotionals and the DAR presentation will be available on our YouTube page. Thank you.